there is no right or wrong answer I'm looking for you here when I ask you these questions. What I'm looking for is some thought process here, so you can kind of see where the United Nations is going, what its future holds. You understand what I'm saying? And what the problems inherent in it are. And what I'm also hoping is when you think about these, you can see a connection to some of the problems of the past historical attempts at international cooperation. You know, was it wrong for the German Empire during the Middle Ages to pursue their own national interest and when that conflicted against the Pope at a time when we were trying to unify Western Europe under the Catholic faith? You see the same thing there? It's national self-interest there, national self-interest now. With the answer, you know, you guys are thinking of in your head and mind, can the UN solve local conflicts then? If national interest is what primarily drives countries, can they solve local conflicts like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that we just talked about last week? Can the United Nations solve a conflict like that then? Should it intervene in these? I mean, even if the outcome is going to affect the international community, if Israel, Palestine, and the rest of the Arab states go to war, we're not going to have access to a lot of oil. Oil prices are going to go higher. Oil is the machinery of our economy. Everything's going to go up in price. There's a possibility of nuclear war because Iran would have nuclear weapons. So there might be fallout. There might be radiation sickness. Might travel the globe. That's going to affect all of us. So should the UN intervene in something like that? Even though it's a local affair. And you have a right to your own national self-interest. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to be thinking about what the issues facing the United Nations are. Now, given how much we contribute in what our national self-interests are, in what we consider the goals of the UN with our place in it, what should the United States' role in the United Nations be? Should we contribute 22% of the budget? Should we be the rulers?
I think so.
But if every country is entitled to one vote in the General Assembly in their own national self-interest, who are we to go in and say, you need to do this?
Well, I don't know how to explain it. But
Is it fair that Cuba, who contributes one, you know, I think they actually contribute 0.04% roughly of the total UN budget, is it fair for them to direct a committee that constantly belittles and berates the United States? But yet they're entitled to their say, aren't they? They're a member state of the United Nations. What should the United States' role in the United Nations be then? Now, I want you to think about the future of the United Nations based on everything we've just discussed. I want you to think, can the United Nations last? I mean, look at every other effort at international cooperation that's gone by the wayside. Who thinks the United Nations can last? Keegan?
Do they still do treaties?
Yes, they still do treaties.
Sorry, I was just wondering.
Who thinks the United Nations is going to last into your grandchildren's generation? Who thinks that pretty much the United Nations is going to go by the wayside at some point? What do you think can be done to make it operate better? Any suggestions? Is there a way to change the Security Council? Is there a way to lessen the power of the G.77 and the NGA? The NAM, the Non-Aligned Movement, within the General Assembly and their power over committees and the agencies? Now, I want you to pass this around. I'm going to read it out loud while we pass it around because we're running a little short on time. And I want you to think about what this man, Emery Reeves, says. Emery Reeves wrote a lot about what he thought the United Nations should do shortly after its founding. What he said is, the first atomic bomb destroyed more than the city of Hiroshima. It also exploded our inherited, outdated political ideas. A few days before the force of nature was tried out for the first time in history, the San Francisco Charter was ratified in Washington. The dream of a League of Nations after 26 years was accepted by the Senate. How long will the United Nations Charter endure? With luck, a generation, a century? There is no one who does not hope for at least that much luck, for the Charter, for himself, for his work, and for his children's children. But is it enough to have peace by luck? Peace by law is what the peoples of the world, beginning with ourselves, can have if they want it, and now is the time to get it. Wars between groups of men forming social units always take place when these units, tribes, dynasties, churches, cities, nations, exercise unrestricted sovereign power. Wars between these social units cease the moment sovereign power is transferred from there to a larger or higher unit. So what is he advocating here, based on what you read?
Advocating war, and war, you need to have war before you have peace.
Not necessarily. Matter of fact, he's advocating peace, but he says there's only one way to peace. When does war stop?